And so what you would have when you got artillery pieces facing artillery pieces is they would be firing at each other, trying to take them out. Some of the smaller artillery pieces can be easily maneuvered, much easier. The larger ones would be moved by horse. But in the case of some of the smaller ones, you could be moving them by hand very quickly from one end to the other. Trying again to maneuver where they've got open shots. What you need to be imagining is these artillery pieces are probably someplace between 1 mile and 2 miles apart. There's very precise procedures that the artillerymen use to load and fire. If you come tomorrow at around, I think it's about 10:30, they'll be doing an artillery exhibition where they will show you what I mean by this. They have to practice by the hours also, because again, if you aren't good at what you're doing, you could easily blow off a hand, an arm, a head. And the battle begins. One of the questions I've been asked a few times today, are we doing any particular battle? No. Historical battle involving these numbers of troops. It would be ridiculous for us to try to portray something. What this is, though, is it's not atypical of what happened thousands of times during the war, where troops would just encounter each other and feel each other out and see, what happened. But most of the time, they're not going to engage in a very long battle, because unless the ground is meaningful, maybe we're in most of the battles, again, we're fought in southern soil. Maybe the Confederate commander, his farm, his plantation is nearby. He might decide to make a stand, especially if he thinks the numbers are pretty equal. On the other hand, if it's something strategic, the Union commander may be trying to reach someplace. In most cases, they're probably marching along and accidentally encountered each other. But again, who would want to die over for no reason? But unfortunately, war does not always make sense. So men would get in battle and would die. I see a piece. They're moving by hand. Normally that size piece would be hauled by horses. Our skirmishers, it looks like they're attempting to move up on the artillery pieces. All likelihood is they're dismounted cavalry. In the Rebel Army, the cavalry had to provide their own horses. If they lost their horse through battle or disease or accident, the soldier was dismounted until he could find a new mount. In the Union Army, horses were provided by the government. And so by the end of the war, actually, they were dismounted. They did not have enough horses for everybody. As the skirmishers come out, with the artillery pieces being hanging, I would imagine our Union commander is going to be sending infantry in support. And as I notice, if you look off to your right, you get to see some Union marching out and enter the battle. More than likely, what you're going to also see is you're very fortunate. The 1st Illinois Brigade, the 1st Illinois Battalion, which is what we have here today on the Union side, we're one of the few units in the country that actually have learned how to drill and do our movements by the bugle. You'll hear bugle calls telling them what kind of maneuvers to make. What we have over on the Union side, it looks like we have dismounted cav. How do I know they're dismounted cav and not infantry? They got yellow. We have different symbols. Infantry is light blue, cavalry is notice that there's insignias. Union insignias of bugles. Again, it's cross swords. And so you can tell the distance what is what. So we have this county cab firing at this county cab. Now the cabs have got a different type of weapon. They're shorter and they're breech loaders for the most part. Most of them are single shot, even though some repeating rifles, particularly the Spencer and the Henry rifle, which looks like a Winchester, were starting to be used at this point in time. Matter of fact, by the end of the war, the Union Army probably could have outfitted most of the troops with the repeating rifles. However, the quartermaster decided that this was ridiculous as the men would just waste bullets. So they continued to outfit men with single shots. Many of the men who could afford it, and units who could afford it on their own, were purchasing repeating rifles. This was pretty much exclusively on the Union. It was a rough captured one from the Union. I'm not seeing any repeaters on the Union side, so they're probably mostly using Sharps or Spencer, Sharps, Smiths, or some other kind of carbine. If you did want a long rifle on horseback, if you could avoid it. And they're moving up in skirmish line. You'll notice they're keeping distance. And again, you're basically feeling out. And it worked. They distracted them from trying to go after the artillery pieces. As things develop, each side, as I said, they don't know the strength of the other side. So what you're doing is you're feeling out. You're going to send a few troops here and there to see. Or one of the sides may know that they've got huge numbers of troops lying in wait. They're going to try to sort of sucker the other side. The committee